Once again, a warm welcome to the easy tutorial of the Das Academy. We will be discussing about Shakespeare's The Hamlet. So if we talk about Shakespeare, all we know is that we consider or refer to him as the Bard of Avon, and he was also born in Stratford-on-Avon, England in the year 1564 and died in the year 1616. So his contribution in the history of English literature is not only remarkable but also very influential to all the periods of time. So we see some of his great plays and tragedies and comedies and sonnets and poems coming up much from 1580s to 1610. And alongside these establishment and introduction of certain tragedies, comedies, we see that there is also a development of Shakespeare's mind and art. So most importantly, we see that Shakespeare slowly reveals his mastery in the field of writing, in the field of thoughts and expressions that creates of him as the father of English literature. And definitely as a reader we are able to mark the definite development of Shakespeare's mind through the different periods of his time. So we see that certainly his works are divided into the period of apprenticeship in the world, period of sadness and philosophical contemplation, and period of serenity. So along we see that the Elizabethan era was developing certain plays like miracle plays, morality plays, mystery play, interludes, romantic drama and regular drama. But certainly William Shakespeare comes out and creates a whole universe out of his mastery and amusement and work of art. So his design, setting of the scene, the grand characters, tree and tragic hero, tragic action, catharsis, art and artifice, and also we see role of destiny playing a major role in all of his tragedies. Shakespeare, the master builder, creates some of the iconic characters like Hamlet, Gertrude, Claudius, Ophelia, Polonius, Horatio, and of course the two great historical spies that are Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. So, if we introduce Hamlet, we see that it has been divided into five different parts in five different intervals. So, there is a very rigid time frame within which this plot has been set by the great William Shakespeare. Now, talking about the time period, it is very uncertain because we do not know when it was published, but certainly we see that it is said to be published between the years 1598 to 1602. And the two most important sources of Hamlet are Saxo Grammaticus, who was a Danish writer, a native of Elsinore, and who had written Historica Danica, and Belforest, a French writer who published Histories Tragiques. Now, if we move into the five different parts, and we see that the act one is where the readers or the audience are introduced with the arrival of the young prince of Denmark, none other than Prince Hamlet. So we see from the University of Wittenberg where he was pursuing his education, he comes back hearing his father's death, and he knew that his father died by a snake bite, which was altogether a lie, because later we find that in this particular act he meets the ghost of his father, which actually turns the events of actions of the revenge play. So we see Hamlet encountering the ghost of his father, who reveals that he did not die by snake bite but by the poison of Claudius, and the ghost of his father requests him to set a revenge against such a horrific murder that was plotted against him. So Hamlet is highly disappointed first because when he came down to Denmark to attend his father's funeral, he saw that his mother Gertrude is married to Claudius, his uncle, and he was feeling lesser fortunate because certainly he did not expect of his mother to settle down in life just after a shorter time of his father's death. Therefore, after encountering with the ghost and he gets to know the true story of his father's death, he is raged with anger and mixed emotions, which we as a reader are traveling through the succeeding acts 2 to 5. Now, in the following act, we see that Hamlet is plotting this play within a play. So why do we call it a play within a play? Because Shakespeare has introduced the literary time with Hamlet as his tragic play, revenge play, or whatever you may call. And we also see Hamlet, the character, building a play in order to execute the true story behind his father's death. So, similarly, as we enter into Act 2, we see that Polonius and Laertes and Ophelia coming in. So, we see there is a very differentiated relationship between the father and the two children. Ophelia is the daughter, Laertes is the son of Polonius. So, he sends Rinaldo to seek and spy on his own son about his behavior, attitude, and actions. And on the other hand, we see Ophelia developing certain emotions towards Hamlet, and thereby vice versa. So, meanwhile, we see that amidst these two cosmos, we see that Claudius is suspecting the reality of the madness of Hamlet. So, he is in dire suspicion as to what caused such a madness in a short interval of time. So, suddenly, Claudius is disturbed by this madness, which for us we know is nothing but a very stark strategy of Hamlet. So, thereby, Claudius appoints Guildenstern and Rosencrantz to keep watch on Hamlet's behavior. On the other hand, towards the end of Act 2, we see Hamlet arranging a troupe of players to settle down the play and the ghost. And and this play is actually developed by Hamlet with the intention to see the reaction of Claudius all by himself, and what are his further actions after seeing the play. Now, in the Act 3, we see that Claudius, Rosencrantz, and Guildenstern, none of them are aware of what is the root source of Hamlet's madness and strange behavior. So, we see everybody is in a very chaotic situation because everyone is in their conflicted mind. But this conflict of mind is risen when Claudius is seeing the play performed by these actors and also Hamlet playing a major role in it. So we see that it alarms Claudius and he orders the stop of the play because he is certainly disturbed by the play where he is now in guilt conscience, and Hamlet now wants to take revenge against him. So, bound by morals, Hamlet does not avail an opportunity to kill Claudius, who is at his prayers. So, he misses killing Claudius by himself, and then later on he plans some other actions where he could clearly kill Claudius, because now he has recognized that whatever the ghost has told is actually true, and his was poisoned by his uncle Claudius. So, even though Gertrude is in a very solemn situation and is unaware of what is actually going on, also fails to recognize that Hamlet is deceiving people of his madness and is having no dire emotions towards Hamlet. So, we see there is a gap of emotions between Gertrude and Hamlet. And meanwhile, we also see Gertrude cries for help that alarms Polonius and Claudius. And the afraid Claudius now believes that if he allows Hamlet to stay for a bit more time in England, then he might tell the whole country and the city about his ill activity. Now, everybody would come to know about his true intentions of killing Hamlet's father, and that he actually poisoned his father and he was not killed by a snake bite. Tragic turn comes when, out of impulsiveness, Hamlet kills Polonius and hides his body. And with the news of Polonius's death, we see both his children, Laertes and Ophelia, are in great shock, disappointment, and gradually, without being able to recover from the father's news of death, there is a very dramatic turn where we see Ophelia dying and is suffering from a severe madness that drowns her all emotions, and she is left isolated. It, however, escapes from his captors and returns secretly to Elsinore. But also hearing the news of his father's death, Act 4, we are aware of Ophelia's madness and how her drowning in the pool and what caused the consequence of the death of Polonius's death. And we also see that Rosencrantz, Guildenstern, Laertes, and Fortinbras are portrayed in contrast to Hamlet's character. So altogether, this particular act is actually portraying a greater emphasis and imaginative and turmoil of all the characters that are introduced by William Shakespeare. As an audience and as a reader, we are also taken aback by the turmoil and conflict in the mind of Hamlet, where we see that not only is he affected of the news of his father's cause of death, but also his impulsive behavior in killing Ophelia's father Polonius, which has highly affected Ophelia's life and sentiments and emotions that caused her sudden death. And also we see that he loses Ophelia at the end, which brings a remorse in his life, and definitely that bridges a larger gap in Hamlet's mind to seek revenge for the father's death. But also his plan of revenge actually drowns a lot of people who have had no dire or prominent relation in killing the father of Hamlet. So we see that even though he escapes from the hands of the captors and manipulates everybody in the revenge act of his, but actually he is pouring a greater sorrow, suffering for other people who are involved in it. So he can be said to be a man of inaction initially, who later becomes a man of action that causes a dramatic downfall not only for him but for all. So this particular act is not only setting the follies of a great character like Hamlet, but also brings out the tragedy in the arrangements of characters who are in a fencing match. Aim of this particular play or a play within a play is to create characters and their conflicts of mind, time and space, and just to expose certain actions which is challenging and changing certain situations of life. So not only do we find a dramatist's genius in William Shakespeare, but we also find the inexhaustible action and genius in Hamlet's play and enactment of play in the revenge mode. So we were brought into a sharp contrast amidst all the characters, and these characters certainly intensifies the plot and the setting. Apart from having a very detailed role and actions of the characters in general, of the commoners, their spies, the uh, of the Claudius, Hamlet, Gertrude, Ophelia, and so on, we also see that it is actually the ghost which is making the turn of events. So the first appearance of the ghost, where we met the ghost encountering Hamlet, has a very terrifying effect, but more of a effect was seen, or the stage was filled with fear and wonder when we meet him during the play enacted by Hamlet. So we as reader and audience are kept in suspense about the purpose of the ghost that actually creates and weaves the plot and setting of mysterious forebodings. So we can also see that there is a very supernatural belief probably in the Elizabethan people, which is highly inexplicable, and that is presented by William Shakespeare with his effective use of literary style, form, and so on. From the very first appearance of the ghost, we see Hamlet is given the duty of avenging his father's death, and that actually causes a very procrastinated setting. Conclude by saying is that the very arrival of the young prince of Denmark, Hamlet, is born to set certain events and actions, which from the time he is meeting the ghost, and being a prince of the Denmark, he is unaware of how to keep the Mark in peace and order. And also we see that it is his own fate that deprives him of the right to the throne, and where he is actually imposed with certain duties of avenging a murder that asserts not only a moral order in the readers, but also a very moral confusion. Even though we cannot call a Hamlet to be a exceptional range of excellence or a performer, but also we can say that he is an ordinary human being and cultivated by certain thoughts and turn of events and actions, but also is very mindful, very philosophical, and is in a creation of a splendor of words. So we can talk about that even though there are certain unanswerable questions to the play Hamlet, and we can also consider it to be a problem play or a revenge play. Fact lies it's that it's a very enduring appeal and a play that remains significant in the times and space. All for the class. Thanks a lot for staying in tune with the easy tutorial. I hope you've liked. So if you want a detailed analysis of Hamlet, please comment down and also subscribe if you like. Thank you.